Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first interview in this interview series where I will be exploring the minds of artists locally and hopefully virtually. I will be posting these certainly on my website, which is GIGNERE-ART, as well as on Substack, and maybe other places too. Again, I'm getting a feel for it. I'm just seeing how this goes. As far as where I am today, I'm in Paula Lifschitz. Did I say that?
Yeah.
I am in Paula Lifschitz studio space here in the Art Hub, Austin, Texas. She's a visual artist with a bit of a story, and we're going to unpack it and see where it goes. Paula, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you, Matt?
Feeling excited. Feeling excited for this. Feeling, it feels a little unnatural, but at the same time, feels right.
Oh, staged.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely something like that. But, I feel, especially from our first impression and just you approaching me with my van and just going off cuff and saying what you feel and saying you're just what was coming up and introducing me to, what is it, the Orange Project?
The Orange Show.
The
and
Orange
the
Show.
Art Car Ball and the Art Car Parade that they do in Houston, Texas every year in April. You should really get on board with that.
I think I'm going to look into it.
It's a cool van. His van's really groovy. It's an art car.
Yes, there's a lot to say about that. And then I was in one of the other studios with the black light, and then you went in there with the cat painting.
Yeah.
And basically what I'm getting at is it seems, especially with your style and your expression, that you just move with what you're feeling, and it's in many ways it's very innocent, and it, again, even just looking at it, it's partially unrefined, and simultaneously it is very dreamy and it's very imaginative. And even again, I put this thought out there yesterday, and you immediately jumped right on and wanted to get right into it. And I feel like it's saying something about who you are as an artist and really where your mind's at.
Yeah, I'm a doer, Matt. So thank you for the invitation. I think it's an amazing project to take on all this artistic journey to interview other people and really amazing outreach.
Yeah. Well, again, it's just like, where are we going with things, and how do we really just come to accept where we're at?
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of where, tell me if I'm wrong, a lot of what is your process is just accepting things as they are, and just going from there.
Yeah, I'm a doer. If there's a problem, I quote vanilla. You gotta do it. You gotta get through it. They'll find a solution. You'll all solve it. Let's do this. You approached me about this interview. I've got a lot going on, and you were just impressive, and you sent me this whole practically thesis on behind the whole thought process too, your journey and the interview process. And I was like, okay, this is making me so nervous. So I'd rather just do it. Let's just have the interview. Instead of sitting there thinking about it.
Well, let's get right into it, huh?
It's kind of like art, It's the artistic process. I feel like that's the first hurdle that as an artist you have to overcome is the blank canvas, what do? You can sit there pondering your existence and your artistic angst or whatever it is you're trying to express forever, or you can just start doing it and see what happens and work on it and just accept it. It's a process.
I feel like you just summed up how I see you, and just being amongst all of, you're very prolific, you're putting this all out there, and you're just saying, fuck it, let's get it on.
Carpe diem.
Yeah, and it's very inspiring, because it's that type of, it's so, again, take this, and hopefully you're not taking this as an insult, because I don't think it is an insult, but a lot of this in the appearance of many other people's minds would seem like it's very rudimentary, or very simple, or something that's some of it, of course. You know what I mean? And it's almost it's so easy to do. Why can't I just do it myself? You know what I mean?
I guess. Yeah. I don't know. A lot of contemporary art has actually fallen a lot Some of my stuff is like amazing compared to other people's crap these days.
Totally.
And a lot of it is because of technology. You know, people, if you still know how to like hold a pen and write in like cursive these days, a millennial, then you're like almost like a genius and like old school or like maybe even antiquated or like a classical studies major, you know? Like people don't know anymore. Technology does it all. Photoshop, Adobe, like all Illustrator, you know, all that all the little CGI and everything. Like people don't really love art. They don't the artist's hand is not so much like a thing anymore. They don't respect the old form of doing art, the artistic process.
Yeah, it seems
all
like
lost
it's a dying
skills that way.
It's a dying trait.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like again, like if we're recognizing how important it is to research the artist.
Yeah, pretty soon we're all gonna be like AI bots, you know? Like when AI first came out and everyone was like mad because like people were gonna go back to the factories and AI was gonna sit around making the art and writing the poetry. That was like the biggest thing at first.
Hopefully
and it's true, you know, we're gonna like become little bots. And who knows what we're gonna draw or if anything. That's like humanity's future.
Yeah, it's a dystopic possible outcome. But hey, that's why we're here. We're actively challenging that notion.
How to make the most of it.
So here's the first formal question for you, if we're going to get into it.
Okay.
All right. How would you summarize the story of your life up to this point, as seen through the lens of your art?
Well, I studied art history in college, which was already a difficult time because my mom was sick and then she passed away. And then I started taking some art classes because art history is what we were just talking about, the history of art, like prehistoric cave painting, so like the ancient Greek, you know, marble sculptures and the Parthenon and the buildings and the Holy Roman Empire and the Renaissance and Michelangelo and the Vatican and all the other Eastern art that is also happening and like, you know, everything, the neoclassical, you know, and then we had pop art and a whole bunch of other stuff, Andy Warhol and the abstract artists, which we call modern art, and now we call contemporary art, all the weird art that's pretty crappy, according to you, and you're right. So what was it? Oh, my story. So I started taking some art classes. I took painting and printmaking at college, or just go at UPenn, University of Pennsylvania.
Oh.
Yeah, like Musk and Trump.
Nice.
Really?
They went there? Yeah. I grew up in Philly.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I went to Temple.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
But that's a different story altogether.
Yeah, that's like across the field.
But UPenn, that's a pretty selective school.
Yeah, it is. And so I was always like on both sides, like of the border, like conflicted, like as an art historian and as an artist. But like it helped me being an artist because I could learn from the art history. Like when I learned art history, I could see it from the artist's perspective. And as an artist, I can't help but like include art historical perspective and knowledge into my art today. I know where I'm coming from.
Yeah, because I know that it's a very elite school.
Yeah, it's an Ivy League.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how was that process for you getting in there?
Oh, dude, that was so long ago. It was like everybody else's process. I applied. I did a lot in high school. I went to high school in Bel Air, Texas. That's part of Houston. Did a lot of like clubs and got good grades and very like community.
So otherwise, it was just pretty simple. You just sort of glided right in there.
Yeah.
Were you intending on studying art history?
No, I was guided into that by my mom's friend. Once my mom died, I take a philosophy class of aesthetics, which is like the study of beauty, the philosophical study.
It gives a lot more substance to your art.
Yeah, dude. You know? I've shown in Miami by like Art Week with like Art Basel, not with Art Basel, but alongside with an underground art fair. The past 2 years. I'm done like an artist residency in Greece last summer. I'm doing another artist residency at Chateau. Castle this year. Yeah, in a few months.
So you're
I'm actually a big deal.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Chosen. I was selected. I was just doing the finishing touches on a book called 2026 Investable Artists or something, and it's like by invitation only. It's like really important.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like it gives so much more substance to your art, and I feel like it's why it's such an appeal is because of how, again, it's like so unrefined and it's so off the cuff, but again, there's so much substance. I feel like you're taking it a little like You're taking it a little bit as an offense in me saying it's unrefined.
Well, I mean, it sounded like you were underwhelmed and unimpressed with some of it.
No,
Like, yeah.
We're here right now.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, the cat that you were talking about. Should I get it? Chicken?
Yeah, of course.
Um, so this cat was one of the ones that I did in the same art fair that we did here in Austin at the South by Southwest, the Satellite Art Fair. And it's actually like called Kitty, because it's like an elephant tusk and a cat, and it's got like brass, and it's just like weird.
Yeah,
And
there's definitely texture to it.
yeah, it's got texture, and it's all about the series of eugenics and like scientific studies of like scientists and doctors playing God.
You're getting into chimeras. Right. Are you familiar with that concept?
No.
Very. It's basically the genetic splicing of animals with other animals, and then also like what chimera is mythologically.
Oh yeah, okay. I wasn't sure if that was that one.
Is like when a human is crossed with another animal, and it becomes like this genetic mutant.
Isn't that like one of the animals that guards like the underworld or something?
Yeah. So again, that's like part. Yeah, and it's like this is. We could go on and on about even that as a social dissection altogether.
Yeah. Well, there's a bunch of them, and there's interviewed for cuisine also about it, because it's really about scientists playing God, which is kind of what you're talking about too. It ties into the same theory, because
that's amazing.
But not just with animals. I did it like that, so that you could be like, oh, I relate to it like that, and not get offended. But like, really, it's about like the doctors and the scientists being fucking evil and doing what they want, and they're not God.
You actually are a genius, is how I feel, because again, it's like you're playing a really interesting game with how you're approaching this art, and how the power of subliminal messaging.
Yeah.
You know, and how intelligent your process is in making it so approachable and so seemingly, again, like innocent and unassuming.
Yeah.
But underneath of it, yeah. But again, like isn't. It's not so. No, but I mean, again, we could say so much about even how stifling it is when we take ourselves so seriously, and like it impedes our own just creative flow. Yeah. You know.
And that's what art can like do. Art can like trespass through those areas that like you're not supposed to like broach, you know, because there's like censorship or it's taboo or it's too racy. But if you do it somehow, maybe symbolically or maybe realistically, maybe super graphically, you can paint a little image of whatever it is you're trying to like talk about or tell or work through, and maybe it's personal trauma, you know, whatever it is, like you can do that. Like that's what people always say about The Simpsons, alongside how shocked they are that they predict things in the future that happen, like shocking things. They get away with like, you know, transgressing censorship of any current like, you know, ideals and ruling over us because like they can, because they're cartoons and they're yellow people.
Yeah, this is the second time you brought up The Simpsons.
Because that's like the best example, dude. It's all about transgressiveness and getting away with it somehow, you know, just getting the message out there.
Right. Well, I feel that we're getting to that critical point where we've been pressing up against the glass ceiling of our own minds for so long that now it's needing to be confronted directly and through genuine transparency and catching up the general mind with what's really going on, so they're aware of what they're unconsciously but voluntarily subscribing to. You know what I mean? A lot to say about that.
Yeah, I lost there voluntarily but subconsciously subscribing to what?
Well, you know, again, like how powerful like manipulation through fear is. And so like the dumber and the less aware a person is, and the more that they're being given part of the story without hearing the whole, or having a real personal concept of what the whole story is. You know, that by just getting this one thing and having the blinders on for the rest of it, then it's just like, well, this is happening, and not to fear though, we're going to take care of you, but you got to just, for your own safety and for your own security, you got to subscribe to these measures of censorship, or that, you know, again, like all of these different aspects where it's like, again, like what type of society are we actually going to be living in if it seems as if every single person then is a an agent or a police officer, like always having to make sure everyone's in line with each other.
Yeah.
So that's the idea of security. You know what I mean? It's just like, is that where do we within priorities, like how much do we bring transparency at the top of that list?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Dude, I mean, transparency I would equate with honesty. And I think that there's so much subterfuge, so many so much double speak. Already we're living in a world of double speak, like Orwellian terminology. There's just security is something that I haven't had in a long time. And I think that this whole transparency that you're saying, that you're speaking of, has to do with the duplicity of everyone kind of hugging you, bringing you in for a hug while they kind of stab you in the back to make sure you know that they're not so trustworthy, but they're gonna pretend like they are for society, because we don't really have cameras. But yeah,
right.
And then you go to sleep at night and they come back and they're like, we're doctors, and you can't do that. Whatever creed you are, whatever story you want to espouse, that's not right. You just this whole, and they lie about it. There's so much gaslighting. And there's so much cover up. It's all veiled threats, and not just threats. Veiled abuse. It's awful.
Again,
transparency. That would be good, dude. I'd be all for transparency, security, honesty.
Because it takes the guesswork out. It's again, that's where accountability comes right in. It's just this is what I'm talking about, and that my words are aligning with the actions.
Yeah.
And so I'm saying I'm going to continue to say these things to you, and then when you're not with me, that you can trust that I'm doing these things, and then when we converge, then it's here's the evidence by my action of what I was saying and how it's actually becoming materialized.
Or how it's not.
Right.
Right. And you know where the loophole is, where you can tend to diverge, is people can go against you while not telling you. It's online, because then they have the anonymity and the virtuality, and there they can play their little multiplayer games that only lead to multiple personality disorders, and it's just nuts. Right. And there's no regulation.
That's such a good point.
Speaking of security, cybersecurity is also very necessary, because nobody's telling them, hey, you're taking this game too far. People are getting hurt.
You're bringing up so many points that go into so many different sort of tributaries and streams of thought that are so relevant. And obviously, I don't know. I'm assuming the platforms that I'm wanting to be posting these interviews on are they claim that they don't censor and that they're for freedom of speech. Mm-hmm. But even with
that they would say it's
what's that?
We haven't said anything.
Well, but that's what I'm broaching on a point that I think again, because it's if we recognize these elements as true and we're in agreement, so we're moving the conversation forward. There isn't anything that I'm needing to question that's challenging my belief system. You know what I mean? We've been walking to this path and we're still on the same path. Yes. Right? So then it's okay, well, how deep do we look into our own history and even question the narratives that we're being fed, and where the authority is that's claiming these as historical truths, when there's other narratives that are running that really again give more context for why the problems are the problems right now.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, based off of my observations and different interactions, because I don't have any, truly I have no presence on social media or on the internet. These are all just okay, I feel I need to rise up and just experiment with it without it being this salvific narrative. It's I'd like to sit and have conversations with people that want to talk about these things.
Right.
But in the recognition of that, oftentimes because of the people that I'm talking to, that they're also in the same way. They don't give a fuck about these, they don't give a fuck about their appearance on social media, and they don't want to be cleverly refined into some dignified idea when their behaviors are more, again, rudimentary in that real way, or savage. Again, I'm going off on all different. The point I'm wanting to get to is it appears as if we live in a propaganda bubble that has captured the Western mind into these ideas of China, they're bad, and Russia, they're bad. Iran, terrible. You don't want any. They're dictators.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, please trust us. They're the bad guys. We're not the bad guys. And it's just like, again, all you have to look. You don't have to look very far to see how like they've tarnished their own reputation so deeply. And then if you actually, again, like if you look at history, if you look at the massacres of the Chinese by the Japanese and like what has happened in World War II, and then like by huge rates where the Russian people massacred during World War II, even relative to always the talking point around the Holocaust, and then again like even that deeper, we look at history through the microscope, and we consider like who were the real targets. And I don't want to get into this because this is again it's so much it's
That's
so deep. But you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's so much to say about what you said, but I think you summed that up very well, and that's good. But one of the things I wanted to say was how you were mentioning that you don't have a lot of experience on social media. And lately, I have this new surge of disbelief in all the stories, all the news, every story I read on social media because of AI. And I think it's a new surge. Another thing messing with people's minds is this technological thing.
Yes.
Some of it's artistic related. They'll make up videos, like artsy, weird videos that are like based in the real world. And you're like, is that actually like a news clip?
Right.
Did that happen like on Instagram? And now I don't believe anything. I'll check the comments to see if it's AI or not. And it's like this whole new wave of like lies that are meant to just embellish and like entertain, which is kind of art. The purpose of art sometimes is to entertain the masses anyway.
Right.
And it just leads to more deception and more Orwellian, shades of veils of truth. Because now you don't know anything. I don't believe anyone anymore.
Because then it just becomes more of like the programming around living in a paranoid mind of like you have to question everything that you're seeing, and then you carry that into the world, and then then you're having interactions with humans, and then because there's again like how people are so far removed from like synchronicity. That then they have a conversation with a person. I've had this happen to me before, where because I'm saying things and like it's just so relevant for what's going on, because like I truly believe that all connections have some underlying meaning, and that's for us to explore through connection. And like so like things that are relevant come up, but because those things are coming up, that people in their own minds then generate this paranoia that this is some agent of some some shadow boogeyman place that's like coming, it's just like
dark web or deep web or whatever.
Yeah.
And
the paranoia has almost replaced the spiritual essence of our own curiosity to really be connecting in genuine human ways, which again is part of our own innocence and like what basically can only grow and thrive if we have trust in the other, despite our differences.
Yeah, but nurture those relationships, those personal relationships in person and not online, because online, I mean, it just leads to like this, this anonymity basically, and then you never know if anyone's catfishing you or if they're like embellishing the truth. And the AI videos, they come down and they seep into society, and then like you start to like mistrust people, and like I'm like, this person can't genuinely be interested in me. And that's the AI like disbelief. I've already been trained online to be like, this can't be true. It's like too good to be true. It's AI. Like this beautiful alien like greenhouse image. It's like all like abandoned greenhouse with like verdant everything and a water fountain running. It's like old and new and run down and like full of green light. It's AI. It's like it's too good to be true. It's also like it's AI. It isn't true.
I found a deep peace of mind and just really setting hard boundaries around that space and around that realm, and just living in the simple recognition that like who I'm connecting with is who they are, and that they're telling me everything about themselves in genuine ways for as long as, again, like I can read between the lines and trust my own
smell
discernment.
them or not smell, like, be allergic to their chemical warfare or not.
Well,
there's all kinds of subterfuge.
We get
can't really trust anyone.
We're getting into a little bit of the juicy. We're getting into a little juicy territory right now, because you're part of what you bring up is Burning Man.
Yeah.
And Burning Man is an interesting. Some might argue that it is is one element of a psyop.
Oh yeah.
In American culture that's being generated to sort of define a new element of the artist and a new element of like the creative relevancy in our society.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious because we haven't really talked about that yet.
Yeah.
But how do you see yourself in that space, and what do you see of that space yourself?
So I do some burns. I do like some art projects with them. Like I'm about to do one with like a dream board, and it's just going to be like open to whoever comes to the camp, and like people can sit down and have like poster board, some stuff to stick on there, like collage, some stickers, some like pom poms, some markers, some matte pencils, and just have them like. It's not going to be so much cut up magazines, but I'm going to make them do it. Like I said, I'm a doer and I'm an artist, so you have a vision, draw it out. And here's like some stuff to embellish, some ribbons and stuff, but like, some glue. But like really just like do it. Like sit down. And hopefully that helps the whole world. Because sometimes, I do like yoga, I do ecstatic dance. I like to like be a little bit connected to the spirituality of people in the wellness community locally. And I was big on that in Houston too. And so I learned from that, and I'm trying to like incorporate all those beliefs into my practice just to be like happier and healthier. I like wellness. I'm sober. I like to like be healthy and to be happy and have positive thoughts, not like negative thoughts like anyone who reads the news these days. So
Right.
it's to help people, like just to like reach out, community outreach, have them maybe burners are like punk rocks, maybe they're like angry, maybe they're druggies, who knows, but hopefully maybe they're like creatives and maybe they'll like come down and sit down and like plan out, like ask themselves, have a moment of reflection, of self-reflection. What do I want to accomplish this year? And like draw a little picture, write some words, and draw a little picture to like, corroborate and like get your like life plan just for 2026 and like see if it helps. And that's just like one project. I mean, there are projects where people like make big wooden sculptures and then we set it on fire. That's a different kind of ephemeral project, which is what it teaches you. It's kind of Buddhist, actually, ironically. But everything must go, they burn it up. Yeah, renunciation, and just to let it go. And like, it's all temporal. We're all just here. Teaches you temporality, which is also mortality, because no one's here forever.
You touched on a couple of different things that are part of the questions that
Good,
we're
so
going
I'll
to.
them.
Well, we'll dig deeper into them if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
How are you feeling so far?
I'm alright. How are you?
Feel good.
Good.
That was the first. We didn't. Okay. Anything more that you'd like to add about the summary of your story up to this point?
So I just turned to art. I kind of like, I don't know. It just became like a way to like meditate and reflect on myself, kind of therapeutic. And then people actually liked my art. Not all people, I guess, but some people. And so I do it for me.
Do you feel like I don't like your art?
No. I'm just saying. It's a labor of love for me. I don't make like a lot of money. Recognition helps.
Okay, just for clarity,
Yeah.
because I feel like you're and you also gave me these shooters about you can't trust everyone.
Yeah.
So what did you mean by that?
Well, you can. I mean, I told you, I'm an AI 2026er, and I just trust everyone most of the time. You gotta like prove that you're cool. Like, I mean, I'm good with this, but like, I have trust issues. Doesn't everyone these days, or is it just me?
I think that's part of that's definitely part of even why I'm approaching this series altogether. Is I feel that's what keeps, again, it's part of this whole divide and conquer and the injection of a.
It's
an injection of infection regarding distrusting everyone. You know what I mean? And it's just like
all those injections and infections have definitely led to my distrusting everyone. For sure.
Well, how do we address that? How do we heal that, Paula?
We'd have to stop that. You just gotta stop the injections and infections and like punish it and stop it. Arrest it. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, hey, you ready for number 2?
What's the second question?
Yes. Okay. What has been your relationship with drugs? Any mind-altering substances, illicit or socially acceptable or prescribed, in the past into the present.
Yeah, I've had all of those experiences with all of the aforementioned drugs, the illicit, the prescribed, and social. So like, I don't know. Yeah, I have. I don't do drugs anymore. I don't take any pharmaceutical meds either, but I have. I stopped taking drugs, I think at the beginning of the millennium, basically, and now it's 2026, so a good 25 years since it's just beginning January.
What was the drug that you were on that led to that release altogether?
Oh, well, I think it was like having to switch over to pharmaceuticals. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And pharmaceuticals, and then like nothing else. Like it was just dumb to like do anything else, you know. So I just stopped it all eventually. But like drugs were recreational. When I got to college, I was already not doing many of them, and then I just smoked pot. And I definitely think that it affected my vision. I have like that was like super psychedelic, and I think it's like I love color, and it's like pretty wild. And I think all my experience is like a wild teenager doing all those weird psychedelic drugs with my friends in Houston.
It has had an effect on you.
Yeah.
In that way.
I'm very open minded. I still enjoy like festivals and stuff, but I do it sober. Yeah, I'm part of sober community, sober tech dance. I go dancing still, but I do it sober. So
beautiful.
And I don't drink anymore. I did drink for a long time, even past the drugs, but then I quit that. Sometimes I drink kava, but that's really just kind of music.
Again, it's like
the kombucha.
Recognizing where that fine line is regarding the real mind altering substances that really have a strength over us, and we have to. It's not so much of a give and take or like a real like enhancer in that way versus like things such as certainly LSD is in that way.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You can lose yourself in that, and again, like all of like. Obviously, you don't have to look very far in even in Austin to see like the effects of the heavier drugs and even prescription drugs. Like what you went there.
Yeah, no, I quit that too. Yeah, I had to do that too. But you're right. Austin's like has a big drug culture, a lot of addicts still, which is sad. Like for me, it's like, oh my god, it's like 2026. Like I've been over it for a long time, but I know that they just keep getting new people. And the opioid crisis is a sad thing to see. Like every once in a while, I'll see similar on that, and that's just awful. That's like real life zombie mode, dude. That's a real problem.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah. And again, this conversation goes on and on and on. Yeah. If we're gonna just share what we've witnessed and these different types of things about what is going on the actual streets versus people that are like just going to their jobs and then going to bars on the weekends and then they're living through their television screens or through the internet, and then they're just hearing these things about like what are the problems and how they're made up problems, and like like there's a serious
psychological problem,
epidemics. Well, it's just again like just the manufacture, right? It's just that even that type of thing of like because of how many overwhelming problems are being endlessly bombarded onto people that people almost in many ways are becoming numb to and it's just like that it's like the only decision that a person can make is like I'm going to just do my job, I'm going to stick to my agenda, and anyone that I'm interacting with within that container is trustworthy to some degree, and otherwise I'm going to just do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It takes time these days. I mean, it's hard as an adult to trust people because, like, it's not like high school growing up, which I wanted to go back to, like, my drug use was more like Vision Linklaters, like, Dazed and Confused kind of thing, even though it was the 90s, but it was that kind of, like, drug use mentality in Houston growing up with my friends. But, like, it's not like high school anymore, it's hard to make friends or to find a relationship, especially as an adult, like especially if you like move around or you're busy or travel. It takes time to build a relationship because everybody's kind of messed up on whatever reason, distrustful or like duplicitous or addicted or whatever the reason,
or just
conniving.
fixated on their own distractions. And again, this is part of the challenge within the equation of being an artist. It's just because of how much, and for me, I can speak for myself certainly, and even again, like what is leading me to sort of like, stretch my comfort zones and really explore these spaces is that um, it can become so isolating within art. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And that it
especially visual.
and especially if you're finding some benefactors that are really wanting to be supportive of you, so that even in that way, it's like you're only having exposure to so many people, and just as long as people are wanting to be, you can live by the almighty dollar, what I mean, that type of thing. That like it's just like, okay, I can be in my art, and I don't have to worry about what's going on in the world because I'm being supported. And again, I feel like there's that type of thing of like, if as it even is with our bodies and with dance and with yoga, is just like one of the reasons why we do those things and exercise and etc. is because like there's an awareness that if you're if you're keeping your body in a limited range of motion, then it's going to become stiff, and it's going to become restrictive to actually have mobility and to like to have independence for the endurance of life. You know what I mean? So like even in that way, how it becomes the idea that it's just a natural aspect of the aging process versus it's like a lack of accountability and self responsibility about like maintaining the body. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was maybe a little bit of a
Right, you went on
monologue.
many tangents there.
Yes.
But I agree with all that. I know what you mean. Like it's important to change it up so your body stays limber and for like different kinds of situations for the longevity of life, like a long life, to
Mhm.
be fit. My grandma was like 100 and something when she died, and she was like always fine. She never like had any injury. She would like bend down
That's
and like
amazing.
you know, pick up the roots from the weeds, root out the weeds from the garden. She was like 100, and I mean, she tied her shoes, so we were like, okay, girl, let's tie your shoes for you, because we don't want to, like, wobbling over.
How old was she when she died?
She was, like, 5 days short of 105.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. And you said you were from Argentina.
Yeah, I was from Argentina, but I grew up in Houston. But then in my late 20s, I went to Argentina. I was, like, in and out of, like, trouble and, like, psychiatric institutions in Houston. My mom had died, and my dad was, like, having a hard time handling me. So I went to Argentina for a while, and I lived there, and so I got to know my grandma better than I ever had, and I have relatives there.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and then I came back via San Francisco. So I lived there for a while, too, because I left San Francisco. It's wild and moved.
Yeah, especially back in those days, it probably was more of the golden age in some, or maybe the fading of the golden age. Because again, like I have some stories, and I have some experience in San Francisco, and I've seen even in my own life how much it's shifted, and it's become a little bit. It certainly has become deteriorated, and I notice that as a pattern. And I don't. I'm just calling.
It's tech. It's all tech.
Yeah, right.
Tech's ruining us. We're turning ourselves into robots. We're all gonna just live in the little machine forever now. Eventually. It's sad.
Do you believe that?
Yeah, dude, they're breaking down the human being. Like they like download and everyone can like hack into you and they can all just like puppeteer you. That means we're like I don't know how many years away from just being that. They're being like they're gonna make robots of us. I don't know where it's coming from. Like, Nietzsche's chain of infinite regression said that like my thoughts go back and back forever. But someone hacked into something because a human being has basically split open like the atom. And that's something else we don't talk about out loud. And if you do, you don't tell me that you should.
About
be
what?
Helpful. About like cracking the code of like human thought and human beings and
Well, I certainly have my own opinion about that. Certainly.
the Matrix.
And I feel a lot of even what this conversation is leading towards more of like the recognition that the only way to resolve these problems is the integration of our lifestyles and to be able to find a communal outlet in a real way. And then again, like the devil's in the details about like what I'm using the word community, but like how are you hearing that word community, and then how are anyone that's even on that side of the screen interpreting it, assuming that anyone's even listening in the first place.
Is this
You know what I mean?
live?
No, this is just being
Okay.
recorded.
But yeah, well, okay, I did want to touch on that subject that you were just talking about, community, and how like people are like selfish because they're like privileged as an artist, and so they don't have to like worry about the stuff that's going on in the news and stuff. Is basically what you were saying a little bit ago.
Right.
And I wanted to say the other side of that is maybe as an artist, like you are finding that support, but like it doesn't matter because you're okay, and like you're just so shit on by everyone in the world that you don't even want to bother with like other people's problems or like the global problems or the local country problems. And so that's the other side, not because you're so blessed, but because you're just so like, abused by the system or whatever that you don't even want to like worry about other problems in the system too, because you're just barely keeping afloat on your
Well,
own.
this is not a question on the list, but this leads into a good question. Like, what do you think is the responsibility then of an artist in light of all of these things?
I think
truly,
yeah, community outreach, dude. Like I like either like you get your message out there visually, which is essentially the role of an artist is to like tell a story, whether it's like, to let someone look upon some beauty or to reflect upon something ugly and think about it, or to like see a narrative and be like, oh, this is important, whatever role. Like today I just reposted someone's story about Picasso's Guernica, which is a big painting that he painted in World War II to like represent like the people that got bombed. And like the Nazis were like, "Did you paint this?" And he was like, "Did you do that?" They asked him, and that's what I reposted. And he said, "No, you did," to the Nazis because it was his painting, but it was their like aggression in the war that like caused all the bloodshed that he represented as like a two-headed bull and like a reverse horse, just like crazy stuff. Artistically.
It's so interesting though, of like when we get to a point in our own development when that specific role of the artist almost becomes in a way like a demented form of art itself. When it's just because of, again, the power of art, and if we're generating really like uncomfortable or just so out there stuff, that because that's what we're reflecting and that's what we're trying to call attention to. But then if everything is so overwhelming all the time, and then we're just still fixated on like, the blood and the guts of humanity, and we're not as artists beginning to show a way into a different story and being able to have the power of creating story and wanting to find traction with solutions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's the bit of the game, is my opinion. Is just like there's this overvaluation of tech that definitely has been done intentionally, so that anyone involved in tech, based off of, again, we could talk about a lot of things, but certainly an overinflated valuing of it is like that you can't even touch. Trillions of dollars are going into that, and then like actual community projects and community integration, and like that's just, they're getting peanuts. You're getting the scraps off the table, maybe.
Especially now in this new administration, it's gotten worse. Like the arts took a heavy hit in funding. I mean, there are budget cuts from the government, the grants, and yeah, they don't care for art, and it's wrong. And it's just another way to like keep the masses oppressed. It really is, which is why you need like these grassroots movements. Like this space is open, on twice a month on Saturdays for like open studios, and you don't have to buy anything. You can just come and look at art, and that's like artists themselves who are here, like opening the studios, trying to make a sale, we're trying to make a living, but it's also like community outreach would provide a safe space. I remember when I was living in Houston and I had an open studio in also like a big Foyer Yards, which was a big artistic community there. And there was one like Saturday, and it was like there was like a tornado watch, and it was like raining, and these people came in, and there was like a family, and I was happy to like let them, hang out there and like, just like have a little bit of not being like stuck on the street, and like they looked at art, and it was adorable, and it was safe. It was a safe space. And I like that arts can provide that, if they want to, they can.
Interesting. So how did you do on Saturday? Were you able to sell anything?
Yeah, I actually made sales. And that was interesting because I never saw anything. So it's like a good thing. It's very small. Don't ask me how much because I don't want to like put this on there.
No, yeah, I'm not.
Okay, but
But I'm
like
just,
yeah, every little bit counts because like basically people do just come in and look, and it's like
yeah, it's
it's a labor of
that's
love.
yeah, that's the again, it's this is part of the conversation that I think happens with a lot of
It's
visual
hard.
artists. It's like that there has to be an acceptance of like that that sense of just it's always bleeding, because we're our blood is nourishing, and I'm not trying to like build a big ego around artists, but because of the fact that like we can't, it's just not the nature of this form and this approach to art of like you can't charge people to come in and look at your art.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like even in people picking your brain and wanting to, there's just wanting to be just seeking nourishment and seeking relevancy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they and again like that's what I find as a frustration in my journey as being an artist, and where I've just come to peace of mind with knowing that like I find the value and I find the nourishment, and it's evidence, and even just the new ways that I'm finding support by just being transparent and being who I am genuinely as opposed to trying to be like sell myself, or be this show dog that's jumping through hoops and hurdles to try to make a sale. You know what I mean? That interesting space of almost like desperation has become a, a, a quality and like a an element of the artist today.
Well, nobody likes desperation, but one of the things I wanted to say about what you're saying that like reminds me of like when I do the art fairs and stuff, and even here in the open studios, what you're saying it's true though, like the desperation because the artist you have to be like a jack of all trades or a Jill of all trades. You have to be like the artist who creates. You have to be like organized about it to like have the archives and everything on file. And you have to be a salesperson. You have to know that if you're desperate, you're not gonna make a sale. It's hard to make a sale. It's hard to like
Right.
be good at sales and be an artist. I mean, it's not like a qualification for being an artist is to be a good salesperson. There's like training. There's people go to like college and get MBAs and business. It's difficult, and you
Right.
have to do it unless you're lucky and you've got like a gallery who and not the pay to play galleries are you have to invest, and then you need a guy that's like a big guy that'll support you, and that's like ding ding. That's like the big lottery winner.
Right.
It's
But then
not so
for
easy.
yourself of how much politics is involved, and like how a lot of people outside of the art world just assume like, oh, just go sell your stuff at the farmer's market and it's just
Yeah.
that easy, and it's just like
Not.
it's very, again, like there's just so many, and then you again, like I'm not trying to talk shit, but like I'm wanting to call a spade in that type of way of just
strategy.
yeah, and like it's just like the it almost seems as if it's the narrative of like you have to be almost like a certified artist through these institutions to be qualified to be able to show up in these places, but then you're just doing the same cookie cutter designs, and like, oh, like another landscape, and oh, another flower in a pot, nice pot, you know what I mean? But then it's just like that there's nothing behind it that gives substance for talking, in my opinion, or like changing the narrative. And then like people are like bloated and unhealthy and their colors all off, you know what I mean? And it's just like, oh, hey, well, there's another human, that's enough. You hear what I'm saying? It's just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally. And I mean, there's a lot to say about that, but also what you were saying, like the farmer's market going down there, the artist also has to be an art handler. And you have to like know how to hang your show and move your show and train logistics. I mean, all of that. Just I know that's a whole different topic of what you're saying. But all the hats we have to wear as an artist. For very little like compensation.
Right. It's not a
self-employed.
It's not a path for the it's people that think being an artist is the easy way to go is delusional.
Yeah.
As they say, I think the Buddha said it best. He said he was giving a lecture and all of these different things, and someone asked him a question, and his answer to the question was, if you're in the pursuit of enlightenment, see the path through to its end. If you haven't started the path yet, don't start it. And then it was like everybody laughed and everybody clapped about it. It's like, oh yeah. Well, no, it's just because again, like people believe that when they get, that like they see what they think is the end solution, the end result based off of people that are celebrated and successful, and they then are like, oh, I want that, so I'm going to do that.
It's easy. A child could do it.
Oh yeah. Well, again, but even that, and like that, I think this is the point that keeps on coming back, because it feels like you took it as an insult.
But I'm an artist. That's very artistic of me. It's like this is the history of artists. It's to be insulted. Ugh, what do you know?
But like I feel like it's a good quality of your art.
Okay.
Is genuinely, it's just like, and I feel like one of the reasons why you're so successful, it goes right back to that Chimera statement within your artwork of this, like there's so much more behind what is otherwise seemingly simple.
Exactly.
Like that, like, tell me if I'm wrong, but like a lot of this is like finger painting.
No, you're wrong.
Okay, well, like, how about this one with the brush strokes that you have on this one?
Yeah,
like
that's not finger painting.
Yeah, but like like in that way though. Again, like
no.
Paula.
It's with a brush. A paintbrush, many things.
And
also some markers. That acrylic markers.
And it looks like you got a little rip. Yeah, what's that about?
That was me being frustrated and like throwing something, and that canvas got in the way. And you know what? It's art. I like it. It's part of the process.
And why did you say SWAT?
We call it like Lucio Fontana, and it's gonna like take you into the abyss there. All that poisoning in the veins. It's like Lucio Fontana, and this is what's valuable about me as an artist. It's like I know our historical references. I know that Lucio Fontana was an Italian who was born in Argentina, and he would literally paint a canvas one solid color and put gash in it. And he called it the like period into the infinity. And he's in museums all around the world. Mm-hmm. He's long gone. But so see, what you're saying though is like there is stories behind it, and I know what I'm doing, and I'm a story behind it too because of who I am, and that is also the value of my paintings and my work.
I agree.
Yeah.
You don't have to prove it. You don't have to prove yourself to me.
Well, I mean, but it's all part of the story. It's adding to what you were saying. Is that there's like the story behind it, which adds to the value, and I'm like, yes. Exactly.
Right, and it's because again, it ties into everything that we're even building into with this whole talking point. It's just like how the artist is needing to live endlessly in their art at all points, and everything is an extension of their art, and all the stories and how we show up and how we share it, and again, like it's how to be able to navigate that space of like we need to start exploring the discomforts and like the inconvenient truths of our day, and then also like how because of just the nature of things that most people want to turn a blind eye to it, and like but they are interested, so there's this like closeted philosopher in everybody that's just like, oh, I want that, but get the fuck away from me, and I don't want to talk about that, and you know what I mean? It's just like how do we set that, how do we really like connect in those ways, and like also don't feel like it's a huge waste of time.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Art is being an artist is a lifestyle. Like I always think, I mean, like there's just so much that what you're saying, like how do we do it? It's just it's so many things to be an artist. Oh, and one more hat that artists have to wear is being their own public too. Like being in this interview and like social media and publicizing yourself, because it's a whole thing,
Yeah.
You don't do it for money. It's just it offers you compensation in so many other ways, like going to art shows, going on adventures, and you justify it to yourself because I'm going to make art after that. Like, take a picture, or you sit and sketch, or where you collect like trees and stones to make your little forest sculpture you get out. Whatever it is, like it's all. And I always say, like, when sometimes I'll like finish something. And then I'm like, okay, so now what? Like art, like that door closes, but somehow art always opens like another window.
Yeah.
Like God, And it like it tells you, okay, how about this path? And then you do that, and you just take it, one step at a time until like your life is lived, hopefully well lived.
That's part of it. Definitely leads well into the next question that I have for you, and certainly, obviously, one of the reasons. And okay, all right. The second question. Okay. We're still on this. We're still on the second question, but we're moving on to the third soon. But the point that I wanted with the whole drug thing, that's where we were.
Oh, God.
But like, do you feel that your relationship if your relationship with art was tied to your renunciation of drugs in your life? Did you feel like that was a sort of a transitional quality?
Not intentionally. I never thought of it that way.
But does it line up in a way?
Not really. Kind of like I started art in college, and I'd say in college I was still smoking pot, but I did do much else. Sometimes differently. Not exactly, but I just kept going with my art after I got to the point where I was going to leave the drug. So maybe it just helped me leave it behind and continue on a different path artistically without even like having to like think of it because it was just always there. So like as always it had just become part of me, like just being an artist, like art therapy, just like therapeutic.
Because you mentioned now art therapy, and then you mentioned that you had some mental health issues,
yes.
And so here that segues nicely.
And
ready?
psyops. And
yes.
psyops.
Yeah. I mean, again, this
tell the truth.
Endless.
Confess yourselves before it's too late.
That's true. Confess yourselves before it's too late.
You're already caught in the web.
Don't get caught in that web. How do you view the concept of healing? And how do you personally prioritize health in relation to creative expression?
If I'm tired or sick, I don't like to do art. So I think I do my art when I'm well, or at least as well as it can be for like whatever time I'm going through, I mean, I'm not always like amazing, but like sometimes art helps me heal. Art therapy. I just use the term. I don't actually like go to art therapy or teach art therapy. I just use it as
your
therapy.
Art is your therapy.
Yes. And okay. I find it healing. And sometimes I get distance from my studio and my art practice for a few days or a few weeks, or if I'm traveling or whatever the reason. And then I don't realize it, and I'm like really like angry and anxious and not like as calm or at peace with myself as I could be. And I'll make it back to my studio and I'll sit down and I'll do some art. I'm like, oh, whew, this helped. Like I needed this. And like I need to always be more mindful of like how beneficial art is. Like it's very healing and curative, and it's strange, like very meditative and quiet kind of way.
I feel like it, for me, in my experience, and what I relate with is the same analogy with dancing or yoga or exercise, of like within a different sort of dimension of our own experience. We could call it psycho spiritual or psycho emotional or psychosomatic even. Like if that is left neglected, through the passage of time, because that's just how time works, that like it builds upon it, and like that it needs to be cleared out, and like all of that needs to be sort of filtered and distilled and processed into an expression, and then it feels like a huge release, and it's a form of ecstasy that I certainly believe in, that's in my certainly from my own experience is above and beyond any chemically induced state of euphoria.
Yeah. Oh yeah, those natural highs that you get, those endorphins, like and it's that dance or yoga, it's just amazing. It's like yoga also helps me, like what I call what do I say? It's like enlightened apathy when I do my yoga. Because I go to yoga and then I'm just like all I don't care. I'm not gonna let the little things bother me. I call it my enlightened apathy because I'm just like apathetic about like all the little annoying things, the awful things, or whatever. And you know what? I don't scream. I don't get mad. I don't yell at the walls. I'm just like calmer because I did my yoga. And maybe it's wrong to be so like even tempered and so apathetic to not care, but like it's enlightened because it's yoga and it must be for a reason.
I went for a run around Town
I
Lake
know,
today
you
for
said
that
that.
was like 11 miles. Felt really good.
That's
I
so
got back
healthy.
and I run in like just running shorts and typically run without a shirt on.
Yeah.
And I got back and just took a little. I got back to my spot and I took a little walk just to sort of cool down.
Yeah.
And there was this black dude in a young black dude in a Mercedes Benz that was like hanging out of the Mercedes, and I just like walked by, and he called me a faggot ass dude.
Oh, no.
Trying to like impress people by walking around without my shirt on, and it was just like again like it's just interesting to even witness how there's projections involved of like assuming stories based off of what I mean, and like again like how for myself of like how much did I let that, again, like I'm calling attention to it as an example in what we're talking about of like, like one of the main benefits and like why exercise is a non-compromising drug, that we can have a serious relationship with that is actually like, it is it's like a beneficial perspective of what addiction is, like when we know that we're in withdrawal, that then we do the thing that we know we want to do that actually like brings up a better relationship with ourselves and self-respect and self-love. You know what I mean?
That's very helpful.
Right, but then and then like in that space of like, yeah, hell yeah, Matt, you did this. Like, what feels so good, and just like again, like a lot of even my own practice in that is like making it just always like interacting with everybody with eye contact and smiles and stuff, and just getting a sense of like where people are at in their own journey and like how they're approaching exercise, because I feel even I'm sure you see it in your own self of like it seems like a lot of people are doing things for the wrong reasons. They're doing the right things for the wrong reasons. Like there's like an anger or like there's like this sort of like this idea that, in my opinion, based off if I'm going to judge a person by how their face is showing up, in those moments of like that they're running, like what's fueling their run is that they're trying to get away from some form of anxiety.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, that's awful though. I mean, like what the issue you're like, not exactly addressing is how like awful that guy was, like harass you like that and to like, call out those like insults, and like the world is a hostile place. People are like being like real aggressive, just like regular citizens, instead of like loving thy neighbor. Like people are mean. They do hostile things, small acts of aggression. And it's like a very tense and volatile society.
It's very bizarre. The basically in my like how I perceive that is it seems people are just so against the idea of like intimacy in like a non-perverted way of like, for example, like I believe like the space that we're holding is an intimate space because like we're sharing in a place of like I'm trusting you with what I'm sharing with you, and in turn you're trusting me with what you're sharing with me, and that's a quality of intimacy, but like it isn't perverted with like sex, like being intimacy must be sexual, you know what I mean, or like that by merit of this man like in his own aura that he's happy and he's smiling and he's like creating eye contact and like giving an acknowledgement of that other man's existence, that must be sexually charged. Again, like because then we could even go into like how much sexuality has become so perverted, and like in my opinion, again, like everything goes back to the creative impulse and our own creative approach to life, and like because of sexuality becoming so exploited and marketed, and again like all of these ways where it's been stripped away from intimacy, that then everything must be done in some capacity for sexual attention. You know what I mean? And that's at least like again like because it went on and on, like it went way beyond him just calling me like a faggot ass dude for like he kept on. It was very strange of how like reactive he became. Yeah, but again, it's just like that's
And
That's how it goes with an artist.
but still, I mean, that could have been like a potentially dangerous situation. Like, did you just get up and leave? Did you keep running? Was your car right there? Like, what?
Oh yeah, I mean, I wasn't running. I was just
situation?
walking, and I was just like laughing at the
Yeah,
absurdity of it. And, like, thankfully, like I'm very confident and comfortable with who I am,
yeah,
and like how like I'm not a small person. You know what I mean? So like if he was to confront me, like I would have. I think one of the reasons that he didn't confront me in that way is like that he assumed that I was going to be like some weak ass bitch and that like I wouldn't stand my ground or like turn and face him about what he was even saying to me. So then like I asked him like what are you like like are you trying to say something to me? So then it like again like how in those different ways it sort of diffused the situation, but he kept the act up and he kept on like going on, and my van like he was parked here down at the lake, and my van was over here. So I just walked up and walked over. And by even the time I got to my van, he was still like screaming at me. But that goes with the Mercedes Benz culture.
So you think he was like high on something, or just like I mean, like what is it? I was like,
right. Well, again, we could go into this is a deeper.
Mr. Karen, like what is
it's a deeper dissection about a lot of different cultural identities and just like what I appear like again like that's maybe for another time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But it's a sign that like as an artist you were able to like not react because of your yoga and you've just been running, otherwise like someone else could have been like very reactive like he was and like it could have like, intensified to like a fight or like guns or this is Texas. Like I mean it's bad, but like as an artist, you're like an enlightened soul, an enlightened being, so you knew just to laugh it off, and that's really admirable.
Yeah, and again it's just like it's
like,
so much about our it's so much about really understanding like underneath everything at the end of the day everybody's behavior is a reflection of their nervous system and how well integrated their nervous system is within their own decisions in life. And like it doesn't matter if you're driving a really like in the eyes of society a really like a status symbol vehicle, but if you're like hyper reactive and trying to get the attention of somebody to then like tell them what you think because like you're associated with this status symbol as if that means anything, and there's like a total like desecration of like what is the like manhood, you know what I mean, of like showing up with like respect and honor and being able to just like again like acknowledge just people making their own decisions without being like caring about judgment. You know what I mean? And it's like that's where like underneath of it all, like I just like everybody is doing again like it becomes that cliche like everybody's doing the best they can with the knowledge that they have, and unfortunately people don't have the full picture knowledge for even their own decision making processes, and like how much desperation for validation and material possession basically like fuels the ego,
Yeah.
and again like that's a long life journey.
Yeah, he was being a jerk with his fancy car and a bully too, straight up like
right.
Angry bully.
And it, and all he really wanted to do all he really wanted to do was just give me a kiss.
Yeah.
That's probably what it was.
Yeah, it was projecting his repressed homosexuality.
There we go. Yes, we're on it. That's anyway. Being a little playful with that.
Yeah, but really, I think the takeaway here, and business sales stuff, as artists, is to like be the bigger people here, and like you were, and I feel like I am many times, and just like sometimes you just have to like step away from it or like know that like people are doing wrong and like society is going wrong. And sooner or later, they're going to get theirs, they're going to get their just due, and they will be punished too.
Yeah, again, karma is always in motion. And again, like, that's where I find a lot of peace. And, like, I've been around enough wealthy people to recognize that, like, that their quality of life is so severely debilitated and that they're so entrenched within confusion surrounding their own traumas, and that, like, so much of their own privilege is like leveraged upon abuse, honestly, you know? And again, like we could go on and on about even just so many examples, even in Austin, Texas, of what I've witnessed of like so many homeless people that are definitely like living in the parks are from very wealthy families in the area. Yeah.
Just like right away.
Well, it's just because again, like that they because of abuse and because of like never having any boundaries or having any like containers for like self development and self cultivation and like the easy access to drugs and like the bombardment of media manipulation to like drugs are cool and like again like drugs have a place definitely, but like too much of anything is a bad thing, you know, and like that it just derails people into like just a deep state of delusion. And like again, if there's no accountability at all because like you're a trust fund child, you know, that you're just like a savage, neglected person that is in some way being enabled to continue these patterns of behavior. You know what I mean?
Trying to survive.
Right. Right, without addressing the underlying issues regarding trauma. Because like if you're going to address that, then you need to confront like where your resources for your own survival are coming from. You know what I mean? And like if you really again, like that's just a deeper conversation about like the nature of trauma, the nature of abuse and like what people are willing to put up with for the idea of what security is.
Yeah.
You know?
Capitalism versus communism or fascism or socialism that's really just not the same. It's really just fascist communism.
Yeah, we definitely live in a military state of there's a really good term. Oh gosh, it's oligarchy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Ruled by the fear. That's a Russian term, really, originally. I think it started in like the Russian, like, I don't know, nobility a long time ago.
Well, maybe that wasn't the term I was looking for.
Yeah, but it is. That is.
That is, yeah, of course. Like,
they use it with like and our base all the Pakistan people made a whole little like robot dog that pooped out little like I don't know crypto dollar bills or something. Of the Holocaust, and it was Zuckerberg.
Oh, I saw that.
And
Yeah, it was awesome.
and the president, and Bhutan, Trump, and I don't know who else. They were all there, all that like.
Yeah. Well,
ruling the new world order, man.
I feel like at least if we're going to go a little bit political, you know, I feel like there's a tendency to like corral all of the fish together similar to like deep sea fishing nets of like even the people are fishing for tuna but they just get everything and then like they don't want any of the other stuff but it dies because like they all been smushed like put together and then they brought up and they're all suffocating and by the weight of each other, right? So like they're only looking for the tuna but like the snappers die and like the turtles die and the dolphins die and like it's like there's anyway. But the analogy, the reason I'm bringing that up is just like it goes back to the point that I made way earlier. It's around like the propaganda bubble within the Western mind and that like we're wanting to like Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin and Modi from India and even Brazil and like again like I could go I can't I apologize I don't know the names off the top of my head so that must make me irrelevant. But like we're wanting to put all of the leadership names together and just be like, and it's like becomes lazy. It's like, oh, they're all bad. They're all equally corrupt. We're fucked. There's no hope. We gotta just constantly be critical of every single leader without really doing the work and putting in the effort of really looking at the truth behind people's words and their actions. And I know it's controversial, but I do believe very strongly that Vladimir Putin is not who they make him out to be within the propaganda machine of Western media. I feel very strongly because of the decisions that he makes and how much discernment and how much he exemplifies diplomacy and also really strong boundaries around what what he finds to be a virtue and like what he stands on as like a noble representative of a respectful nation.
Well, I don't know the details of the Putin's death. I mean, it's a heated war for sure, the Russian-Ukraine war. But I think that to get like that congruence between words and action and to verify it like fully, you're gonna need to like implement a total deep state surveillance system like everywhere. And if it's already there, like make it out loud. Like the other day they were talking about in the hallway here, right before you came in on Open Studios, and about like my neighbors about how they just found out that there are cameras in here and everybody's studio.
Where's yours?
I don't know, but they were talking about it. And then I saw somebody post about like the laws of Texas and like bathroom surveillance and how it's illegal in the state of Texas. But basically, like that's going to become an issue. It's like right now you have like the cameras and like street traffic cameras.
Right.
But like people like say one thing, do another, and then they get online and they do a whole bunch of dirty things, and then you shut your eyes and like who knows like what the rat's dragging or what they put in you or who's doing what.
Yeah.
And like that's why you need the cameras and you need to be able to like call them forth and be like, I need that surveillance footage because I want to take these motherfuckers to court, That's not all good, but like the cameras here, so I thought I would like broach that topic.
Yeah,
too.
I mean it's
living in the new millennium being me. It's time that everybody catches up and like they're gonna film all of y'all. It's gonna be the Orwellian dream.
Yeah, it's Pandora's box is certainly opened, and we can't put it all back in there. And in truth, it's actually again we're coming more into transparency and honesty because this has all been going on. Like how many baby boomers that I talk to that are like just totally dependent on prescription medication and like they basically become like mutant test subjects of the medical industry and like they have their organs removed and they're like they have all this metal, you know what I mean? And then they're like, oh yeah, there should be many class action lawsuits all across the board on many different things, 100%, because this is again, it's just the social experiment has become so mutated and radioactive that like people are because it's just like there's no aim for anything and that like there's no outcome that's trying to be approached that they're just like, oh, let's fucking see what happens if we just like inject these neurotoxins into these people and see what it makes.
Monster, dude. I want to kill those people for doing that. And you know what?
That's a threat.
No, it's awful. I mean, I don't like that that's happening. They don't have my consent. It's bioethically unethical. It's unethical. You can't. That which makes it illegal.
Yeah, it's absurd. It's just absurd. And then again, it goes again like we gotta recognize the patterns within history and just like again like it's such a sensitive topic about like like the inhumane studies that were going on in the concentration camps, and then I don't know how familiar you are with like the Nuremberg trials, but then they executed all the doctors that were performing all of these studies, except for they imprisoned for like 7 years the manager doctors and also like the business minded people that were like building all of the like all the machines and all the tanks and all the vehicles, and they put them in prison under the conditions that they'd be I forget what the project was actually called, but then they came to the United States.
What was it called? Wolverine X-Men?
What's that?
Wolverine X-Men?
Oh, is that weird?
1 through like 7. Was that the project?
I haven't even watched any of those.
The X-Men? It's kind of based on that. Yeah, he's like a product of the Nazi experiment, so he's like part Wolverine, and the X-Men all have like magical Marvel like superhero products, skills, superpowers, because they're like Nazi victims, whether they know it or not.
No, it's the whole there's so many rabbit holes about all of these things.
A lot of those Nazis escaped and took refuge in Argentina,
right?
And they had some of them that they were going to try, and they were like old men though, dude, and like it didn't matter. They'd already lived. They were like 90, and they put him in jail. Like, who cares? He's 90. That's not good enough.
Principle, yeah.
It's too late.
Yeah, there's a lot to say about South America and the exodus of Nazis down there, of course, and again, just like we have to really run a fine-tooth comb through our own past to look at what is the actual history based off of like why is Mercedes-Benz and BMW like status symbols, and like why is Bayer Pharmaceuticals basically like the patriarchal top of all of these pharmaceutical companies, and it's like the illusion of choice when it's really a monopoly, and like Bayer Pharmaceuticals was creating the chemicals for the gas chambers, and then they're now creating medicine?
Yeah, dude.
Really? And then they bought Monsanto?
Yeah.
And then they're spraying neurotoxins on food, and they're the good guys.
The
now?
largest Monsanto plant is also in Argentina. And you're taking it back down from the war, which we're escalating to rapidly. I mean, any day now.
It's already happening.
President say it's World War III. So
we're already on it.
That's happening. But taking it back down to what you were saying about the people that made the gas, but also make the medicine. And I like that you did this because it is kind of like this business pyramid scheme, this pharmaceutical and the medical system. And the fact that they're making us sick, doctors make us sick, and they make us dependent on these medicines, these pharmaceuticals, these drugs. And it's just like a cyclical cycle and a pyramid scheme for them.
Right. Well,
and it's just like business, it's money, and especially in America, the TV commercials are all sickness and medicine. And that's not a TV commercial. That's awful. That's just like sickness in the collective consciousness coming from top to bottom, you know?
Yeah,
awful.
I was in Planet Fitness just doing my thing on the stair climber, and I never watch any of the TVs because they're so delusional in the first place, but this one caught my eye because it was this white guy, this old white guy selling people generic Viagra. And he was like trying to like really like, you know, like the big pharmacy doesn't want me to tell you this, but you know, you go to CVS and you know these pills cost $16 a pill, but if you go through us, they're only 89 cents, and I'm gonna get the 100 milligram one, and I'm gonna be hard as a rock. You know what I mean? It's like, what the fuck? It's like, yeah, like that's what we need. Like that's what we really need. You know what I mean? It's like it's become so it's become so perverted. Yeah, and it's again like there's no repeat customers if we're actually addressing the diseases and we're healing people. Like what you need to do is become dependent upon us, and then we can control you, and then also you'll be retarded. And if you're retarded, then you'll be even more easy to manipulate and exploit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Or just misunderstood. Or just get comfortable pretending that way or being that way and letting them think that stuff. So who gives a fuck? Like maybe they'll like leave you alone a little more if they think you're like slow. And you're not. You're a fucking super genius who's secretly running the world. But no, sure. But you're not, dude. And you know what? Even on the streaming services, which I subscribe to, I don't watch regular TV anymore, but I used to. And like even then, like the cheap ones, which I get, I still have commercial breaks, and they still like plug in all the sickness, all the meds. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? It's not even. It's a paid streaming service, and still it's like the same sickness. Like they just keep like feeding you sickness. They're like They don't want healthy people, because then if you're healthy, if you're too strong, they'll grab you and retard you, like you're saying, and then you're just smart to play dumb because like that's what they want, and they won't stop, man, till you're like fucking dead on their crop.
Yep.
Doesn't matter what your beliefs are.
That's right.
Back 100%. To the Nazis. They're crazy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They don't like people like surpassing them.
Hey, we're just calling spades a spade. You know what I mean? Like again,
give it all to AI, dudes. We don't know shit. We don't know nothing. Yeah. Nothing.
Yeah, because again, just we're overwhelming the narrative with all this confusion, and then look at this salvific, all-knowing, superior intelligence that comes out of where? We're creating it actually, but yeah, it's just like again, like it's just again we've become a caricature of all the mythologies of all the religions into just like the absurdity, and again in the true meaning of the word retardation, we've arrived to retardation, which is like the total suppression of actual growth and development.
You know what? Think of it like a flame retardant. A flame retardant just like what? It just prevents fire. So we don't die. You just like you don't let the fire of life or the fire of youth die out. All in the Middle Ages or medieval times, people were like searching for the fountain of youth. And now they're like, oh, no, it's bad. Don't be so youthful. You're retarded. You're retarded. I'm youthful, bitch.
Right. Hell yeah. That was the point I was wanting to get to at your
Yeah.
art in calling it childish.
That's true. Well,
Because
Picasso...
you got a little offended in me saying that, but now you're saying it in a different...
But you know what? Picasso's famous quote that I always love is, well, one of his is that he took, like, a lifetime. Like, he went to art school for, like, 4 years, you know, to learn how to paint, and then to paint, like, you know, fancy, established, well, perfect artist. And then he spent the rest of his life learning, like, unlearning all those skills to learn how to paint like a child, because that's what he thought was, like, the true genius of art.
But you've never taken any structured art classes, have you?
I've taken a couple of classes at Penn. I took painting, I took printmaking, and everyone was really impressed by my art, which was surprising to me, because it wasn't my plan to be an artist at all. But life, you know, threw me for some loops, so I ended up that way. You know, and then, like, I took some other adult learning classes. I took painting classes in Houston and Argentina, and yeah, then I just started doing my own thing, started renting my studios, and I did some shows.
This one behind your shoulders standing out to me.
This one or that?
That guy right there, yeah, with the eyes.
Oh, yeah. That's part of the eugenic series.
You want to bring that over?
Sure,
Let's chat a little bit about that for a minute.
This is actually based on...
I love the texture of it.
Yeah, based on the screwworm fly, which was like a flesh-eating parasite that was eradicated and recently came back to America. The CDC just issued a warning, mixed with human, you know, people, like legs and arms, but it only has 4 fingers.
But it is so playful. Genuinely.
Thank you. Yeah, it's got like texture and acrylic, and yeah, people really like that.
What's his name?
Oh no, it's just like I don't know. It's called I don't know. It's just a
I'm
mix.
just being silly with
Yeah, he doesn't have. Oh, and this is like a little balloon, like a child's game, but also it's really just like a drop of blood, but it's also like a balloon. And yeah, they're trafficking the pestilence. And you know how they eradicate it? They eradicated, I think it was in 1915, by sterilizing the males because it was easier than the females. They were like, the government had to because they were like a pestilence that was like raging.
That's a whole other conversation altogether, even about those experiments by Bill Gates on mosquitoes, and then how it brought the Zika virus. He was doing these experiments off the coast of Brazil earlier on in 2000, like in this new millennium, and then the mosquitoes got out, genetically modified mosquitoes, and then they swarmed up the coast, and then they got in Florida, and then they were like surrounding Disney World, and then like people got Zika virus, and then like it's like, oh, surprise, the same like genetic defects of the mosquitoes are being passed into the people by blood transfer, and it's like, oh yeah, yay, thank you, Bill Gates, once again. You know what I mean? And it's just like, all of these things that are claiming to be philanthropic and altruistic are, surprise, surprise, just more genocidal and more
mass destruction, biological.
Right, yeah. But it's just like, we're good. We're good. Everybody hates mosquitoes, and it's
a plague, man. They're just
right. Who's going to argue against the idea of eradicating mosquitoes? But again, like, are mosquitoes more of a symptom of a larger problem? Truly, that's my opinion. It's just like, where do we find a balance through the lens of nature to bring mosquitoes into a more controlled population versus, like, it's the same thing with algae blooms and like the red tide down in Florida. It's just like, well, if you don't want the red tide, then like you got to change the way that you're dealing with sewage, because it's all raw sewage coming down from Tampa Bay, and then like you're just swimming in raw sewage. You know what I mean?
That is pretty too. But you know what? You also have to like wonder, like the whole Bill Gates thing, like, is that also leading to like humanity is like, being like devoured by mosquitoes? Is that like the destruction of humanity? And then like we become cell phone chips or like AI bots, it does kind of tie back into that. Like the bug, like when your computer has a bug and the bug is like a mosquito or a flesh-eating old world screwworm fly. That's what this one's called. They're like iridescent green. And there was just like a news alert that they've like found cases of them again recently in Texas, I think.
Yeah, there's rabbit holes on rabbit holes, and it goes into wormholes, and it becomes like interdimensional very quickly because it's just like, what's how do we piece the entire picture together, make sense of it, come to accept it as reality, and be genuinely confident that what we're seeing is what it is, and then how do we move forward with solutions? Is again like that's in my opinion, it's like the bigger puzzle piece. It's like the bigger puzzle slash chess game slash Rubik's cube slash like bomb that we have to like disassemble. You know what I mean? It's just like if you cut the wrong cord, then everything explodes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I
Poetically.
think that's our role though as artists. Like all of this discussion came around from a painting. You know,
Right.
like we're like broaching the topic and like having discussions and intellectualizing it, philosophizing it, and then other people, speaking of community outreach, they have to step in and take that what we're brainstorming here and like think it through and figure out how to do it with the ones who know how to
Right.
cut the cord.
Right, and again, like
As an artist, I don't know how to do that.
I have some solutions. I have some thoughts, of course. Like I believe, but again, it's just like when. Most importantly, again, it's even like what I wrote in that outline that I shared with you is like we have to first be able to hold the creative space for it, and we have to be able to own our own time so that we can arrive and have freedom and be in the authority of our own lives. Where like we both of us, because of how much we value time, that we're willing to hold this space for as long as it's open for until it feels like it's landed at its resolution. We don't have any commitments. Of course, like I know you have things that you need to do, and I have things that I need to do. But like other than that, like we're wanting to make the most of our shared time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like we're getting to know each other by having these conversations. But I don't need to know everything. I don't need to know about your first boyfriend, or like how your relationship was with your father to get to know you.
Okay. That's good. Yeah.
Cool. Right on. Well, but this is another question that we'll all get to know you a little bit, Paula. What truly moves / inspires you to be an artist, and how would you define your relationship with this source of inspiration?
Well, I think we've been talking about it,
Right.
really, all of it, but it's a good question. I remember thinking about that when I first read your question. I think, like, my life and just kind of what you were saying, everything that you just said was really beautiful about, like, this whole, like, what would lead to, like, detonating, or, I'm sorry, not detonating the bomb, deconstructing the bomb, was, like, looking for answers and searching, getting questions, like, all these things that reminded me of, like, the religious studies course that I took online. And like the professor was like describing why people in ancient times came about, like defining religion, like how they made up these religions, like how did religions come to be. And it was kind of just exactly what you were saying, like finding a way to like make our life more livable and acceptable, to accept like the things that we can't control, the unexplainable, to give ourselves faith that we're going to get through the hard times. And I think like all of that is like I don't have a specific religion that I believe in, but like all these like things are just like thoughts that help me, that nourish me. And I think I look for that also in my art and my artistic process. I like to just like I don't know, paint something. I always write on my art statement. I like to paint the world like more interesting and more creatively, more dynamically, more colorfully than I actually see the world. Because I see the world, I live in reality. I like to make a different version of it that's like, I don't know, more fantastical and more imaginative. But like all of those things, like just like process life and like, heal or like have the catharsis of an experience or get through a trauma or record a trauma or record like a question or maybe just something pretty like a flowers or landscape. Some of it isn't pretty, like you said, and it isn't.
I never said it wasn't
okay,
pretty.
But some people have said that, and I'm okay with that too, because you know what, my life isn't so pretty. Maybe parts of it are, but like the world isn't pretty. Some of it is, and some of it isn't. And I'm okay with that. There's art that is ugly and it is good. It's not all good, you know?
I've had some diuretic expressions with art that have been just what I need, and I value those works more than a lot of the ones that are way more refined and way more like intelligent because of like what was needing to be processed in my own life. You know what I mean? And so like a lot of those art pieces are more for my process. And if someone resonates with it, of course, like I would love to share it with them. But otherwise, like even anything that I'm creating is more of like, the continuation of the exercise with like having a intimate relationship with, what I'm trusting in and what I'm knowing to be the truth. And despite the world and despite all these things, how am I, just continuing to maintain my presence along my path despite the overwhelming odds that we're seemingly confronting? I don't know. Have you ever read The Lord of the Rings?
I saw the movie. I'm not sure. I don't think I read that.
It's worth reading, definitely.
Yeah.
It's really, but
Oh, Lord of the Rings. Oh no. Yeah,
it's a
Lord
great
of the
movie.
Flies.
That's
Lord
a
of the
wild
Rings.
book
I
too.
did see the movie, but yeah, it's long. It's for boys, man. Yeah.
What?
It's for boys. I remember
Oh,
being
okay.
like bored with it. I was
Oh,
like,
damn! Don't say that.
I've
Don't.
heard good things. I know a lot of girls and women who really like that. I didn't.
It's such the book is. Well, you should. You should resonate with it, Paula.
Really. I like Lord of the Flies.
That's a different book. Well, the reason I'm bringing it up there.
That kind of.
Yeah, definitely. The whole pig on a stick.
And like the savagery of like savage brutality of the survival instinct,
Right.
like just wanting to dominate
Yeah,
everything. Even your run today, and that
right, all rooted in ignorance because it was a bunch of boys that got stranded on an island and they didn't know what to do with themselves, and like and then it becomes absurd because of the fear and in the insecurities of the unknown. But the reason I bring up the Lord of the Rings, and how I tie it to what you were saying about even religion is just like I love the story and I love the characters and I love the poetic parallels that are really so beautifully and timelessly expressed by Tolkien. But I'm not trying to convince people that Frodo Baggins is my savior and that he definitely existed and that all of this is real. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's such a good story and there's so much parallels that I can pull from my own life and my own journey without needing to be like, Frodo Baggins is everything. And he's God incarnate and he came to save the world. You know what I mean?
Really?
And
I never heard anything about that.
Well, I'm saying that as like sort of a parallel to a story that obviously if I'm going to call it out directly, and again, it's just like how again like if we really are historically considering the character of Jesus, like is he genuinely being represented for who he actually was based off of like the in my opinion like the idolatry of him and the rationalization and justification of warfare and crimes against humanity done in his name. You know what I mean? And it's like, is that really what like he was like turning over tables of like tax collectors and like merchants in the temple because like he hated capitalism coming in and destroying what was sacred. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's just again the perversions of the truth into something else, then claiming that that's the truth, and then having everyone need to subscribe to that mythology for an idea of a national identity. You know?
Yeah. Well, like what you're saying is the version people do speak of Jesus being kind of like a vagrant and like very poor and humble and like of the people and like a fighter, like kind of like he would be like an outlaw to his society. But then like the Nazis and Hitler did horrible things in his name, so it's very contradictory in like world views, like everything you're saying that he would hate is exactly what the Nazis were like fighting for in the name of Jesus.
Yeah, it's so strange that you can bring that up because obviously like the British intelligence the British intelligence involvement with the creation of and support of Hitler, and then also like the Vatican's involvement with Nazi Germany. You know what I mean? And just again, like there's just so many things that need to be considered truly about like why why things maintain their power and even become more powerful after like colossal war and atrocities that are like destroying humanity and
Yeah.
destroying like the gypsy nomadic people of the land. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the Nazis, like Hitler, I mean, he basically made Jesus out to look like a fascist because he did it. He was such a fascist, and he did everything in the name of Jesus.
That's so
And it's
wild.
just opposite of what like everybody says the Bible describes Jesus and his teachings were like the opposite of that.
Because this is one of the first times that I'm hearing of the connection of Hitler with Jesus.
Well, he was all about like the Aryan race, and he was like fighting the Jews. So I assumed he was Christian. He was Catholic. He was like very obsessed with Catholicism and the Aryan race. That's what he was.
Is Catholicism associated with the Aryan race?
Well, I mean, why would he hate the Jews? The Jews are the only ones who denied Jesus, and he hated the Jews. He locked up the Jews in the concentration camps.
I always thought it was more about like the recognition of like the banking system and these
Do you
different.
think he locked up the Jews because of the banking system?
I think that played into it.
I'm pretty sure it was a holy war. He wanted the ideal race, the Aryan
But yeah.
race. I don't know, dude.
Yeah, there's so many things to talk about.
It's not about art, but that's what I've always assumed. Yeah. Why would
Because
he be so against the Jews if it wasn't because he wanted Jesus to be like he did it all in the name of Jesus Christ?
I don't think I've ever heard
Really?
not Hitler claiming. I know that there was involvement from the Vatican with like supporting his agenda, and I think oftentimes like even because we could talk even about like the mass genocide that occurred in America and like how that is like almost always it's always like the excuse always is like it was biological, it was because like we were being kind, we were giving them blankets, but these blankets were infected with smallpox and they didn't know how to handle it, so they all died.
Of the Native Americans.
Right, but it definitely was. There's obviously way more of a story than that, and again, like we can piece together the path through time based off of how Native Americans are being severely suppressed. And again, I could say a lot about my experience with Native Americans and like what I've witnessed with the reservations and the drug problems, and even like how much the only way for them to actually feel like they can live life in a reasonable way is if they're either working with the casinos or they're involved with the military. Anyway.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, now this would probably take us on another conspiracy tangent. I'm a bit of a conspiracy myself. So, like, I feel there's a whole, rebellion and insurrection going on. And it's like, I don't mean like January 6th kind of insurrection, but like the insurgents against that insurgent. Like the Native Americans rising up and the whole, like Mad Money becoming governor now, mayor of New York City, has had this like sweeping effect of the rebellion. You can just feel it and see it everywhere. They're like rising up and they're empowered by that. But anyway, that's the whole
things need to change, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but then you get the extremists on the other side, and I feel Mad Money rose up as a reaction after many years to 9/11, like the counter reaction to the war and everything. In history, every reaction there's an opposite reaction in history too, even politically. But anyway, historically too.
Yeah, it's again, it goes into really being able to define and assess every little piece of Pandora's box to know where it has gone in the world, while also embracing and accepting the fact that it can't all go back into the box.
Yeah, but finding like the happy medium. I wouldn't say like apathy, but like the happy medium that it's neither extreme. Because when there's one extreme, then the other people get mad, and then they become extreme to take back the power, and that's how you get yelled at walking down the park. It's just like it's a volatile situation. People are restless and unhappy, and there's great fascists movements that are taking away like basic citizen security and human rights.
Because if like housing is like more and more inaccessible, and then like everything is more expensive, and then you have to have a job, but then you have to like placate to like the petty games of management to just keep busy with like arbitrary meaningless jobs, because like they're obviously not necessary, but everybody needs to be corralled so that everybody can be like predictable, and you know what I mean? It's just like it's just a continuation of like preschool to just keep people occupied with just meaningless things. And then to like be like, you are so smart. And then it's, but if you're like going against it, it's just like, oh, you can't do this anymore. Like, and then everybody's always needing to confront their fear of becoming like the outcast and like the deranged homeless. And like, I embrace the homeless identity fully, because like it's such a relief to know that like I'm moving at my own pace in life. I'm trusting my own growth and my own development according to like my nature, and like I'm a slow growing, like long enduring seed. And like not everybody needs, like I know that not everybody's like me, because like that's just the nature of things. But like I've had to reconcile that truth, because like it's like incompatible for me to become integrated in these systems, because of, again, like, the burden of knowing, and the burden of like carrying that knowledge as like a responsibility. Because otherwise, again, like it's like what do? We become like dissociative, and we are in denial, and then we cope through addictions,
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's hard. Plus, sometimes like you want to flee, but then like your problems follow you, and they hunt you down, and you take yourself with you, and you take your problems with you. Sometimes it's good, and sometimes like it's just not good enough, and like you're still like involved with yourself and the people, depending on who or what. It's not always like the cure all.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge in my walk in my life, especially because like I can't turn and blame anybody for anything that happens in my life, and nobody gives a shit because I'm a white guy. And like I'm not saying it's because I'm a white guy, but it's just because of like the fact that I'm strong on my own feet, and I can speak for myself. That like anything that happens is by its nature a consequence of my own actions and my own decisions, regardless if I'm at fault or not. Like in my own life, there's no value in being a victim, because like all that I get is more of my own depression and my own misery and my own sense of injustice that is like pissing in the wind. You're just getting covered in your own piss. You know what I mean? It's just more about like what do I need to change about my own walk and my own behavior, so that like I'm seeing patterns and I'm no longer becoming involved in those patterns. And like it's part of it's like it's science, it's experiment of like, okay, well, if I do this, what happens? Will it change that pattern? And it's like, okay, cool, like that's a reinforcement, it's a positive reinforcement, and it's like, oh, it's still kind of happening, so how do I need to adjust it? You know what I mean? And again, like it's just like where I feel like that goes into many different things, but certainly about even relationship, and like how are we really showing up for relationship, and seeing like just the bullshit that happens almost always that keeps things from being tight and moving towards a creative outcome.
Yeah. I was gonna say, not so much about relationships, but about what you're saying about like, trying to like not fall into the old pattern. In that sense, walking away from it or driving away is actually kind of maybe a good way to deal with it, to escape some of those patterns. Yeah.
Well, yeah, again, because it becomes that need of recognition of like, these patterns are existent, and I don't think I'm responsible for them.
Yeah.
So like, what happens when I get away from what I think are those patterns, and like, oh shit, like it's not the same, but something is still happening. Like why am I being like, again, because that's even like the trauma response, and like our own emotional fragility, and how do we like reconcile that and come into a new understanding, and like not taking everything so personal, and like at the same time like being very personable, and like wanting to share intimacy, and like wanting to share a human moment, and like if anything is even uncomfortable, that like there's like a trusting that this person isn't attacking me, but like something's definitely happening that's making me feel a certain way, and like how do I explore that in a genuine way, as opposed to like, get out,
Yeah.
you're the problem here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Trust issues, I think, and like that gets back on the relationships that you were saying that people need to like be working towards a creative outcome. Like if you just don't trust each other, or you like have too many demands and like too many trust issues, and like like one little misstep is like, oh no, my alarm is sounded, like you triggered. This is like my personal trigger, my trauma response. And these people all have like these. By these people, I mean millennials. They have like a very evolved system of like describing themselves like therapeutically. I'm pretty impressed with it all. Like they have like their relationship, their little AGAP or whatever, their little relationship, acronyms for like, oh no, the entropy, or like the ENTP, like whether they're extroverted, introverted, like their trauma triggers, their I don't know. For a while, everybody I was meeting in Houston was like, oh, I'm like, sorry, I have PTSD symptoms, so this like triggers me. And I'd be like, well, at least you're traumatic syndrome, because I'm still like in it. I'm still in the trauma. I like yearn for the post part, but I'm still traumatized.
Do you feel that way for yourself? Night. Is that what you're saying?
I'm still in survival mode. Yeah.
Interesting.
Or survivor mode, but
well, even in bringing that up, it's just like we recognize that it's our mind is a minefield. You know what I mean? And like that we're like doing the work of like knowing where all the mines are, and then we feel like it's doing a service in relationship to be like, okay, welcome to my minefield, and like these are all here so that like anybody that's going to be coming in and trying to attack me, like they're going to just blow up. Yeah. So like here, this is the mine here. So just memorize all of my mines. And then you'll be able to, like, you just have to pass through all of this all the time, as opposed to, like, taking the responsibility of being like, what the hell is this, and why is it here in the first place? And, like, some of those things, like, are just so ancient, and they're so, like, they're just, like, passed down generationally, that, like, it again, like, where is there even where did we find validation or justice in being able to be like, this is for this reason, and now we understand.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's good, but like things are just, again, things have been happening for so long. It's just like, let's just fucking get rid of it.
Generational trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the buck stops with me. Like, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, I believe that's accessible.
It's epigenetic memory, and like genetically speaking.
Yeah.
So it's like in your body, it's passed down like genetically, your chromosomes, all the trauma.
Right, because
like
it's
Darwinism.
One could say that like your own genetic sequence is your own. It's the story that's endlessly being written from all of the experience of everything that has ever happened throughout all time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's a beautiful way of even perceiving genetics.
Yeah, or just like the person that we are because of it, but also like what a heavy burden, right?
Well, the thing about that is like that we then can rewrite those stories by wanting to address those patterns. You know what I mean? And like not like diminishing our own power as creators to then be like, oh, I can't do anything. It's in my genes, and like I'm subject to this forever and eternity.
That would be like an alcoholic saying that it's genetic. Their father or their mother was an alcoholic, their grandparent. They can't do anything about it. You can.
Right.
You can.
Definitely. 100%. You ready for the final question here?
Oh, yeah. Because this is intense. Dude. You are intense.
Paula, you got some endurance, lady.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, here you go. Ready? How do you view the concept of community? How important is community to you in relation to your creative expression? Does it drive your future vision? Do you hold a future vision in relation to your art?
I do like community. I like this place. It's very like cool. It's got like a lot of young artists and a little bit older artists too. I like that there's like a good vibe and that people like kind of talk to each other. Because I was at a different studio in a different town, and it didn't have the same kind of people that came in to see it or that were working in the art studios. And I like it. I think community is important. I think it's important to have like the right kind of people around you, or even coming through, just passing through to see it. I think it helps. I think it's like beneficial to have people you can enjoy sharing space and time and talking with, and that you can count on for like collective things. Like, and that,
So do you view this as community?
Yes, for an artist, a visual artist, because we are alienated and isolated people, we work alone. You just me and a canvas and like materials, like it's not very interactive. Like musicians can play together in a band, and then they can have a concert. And if they're really like famous, they have like tons of people. And if they're not so famous, they have some of their friends, and it's cool. It's social. It just naturally lends itself socializing into a cool community. Which is why I have friends with a lot of like musicians, at least I used to. I like to be like I like to like, hang out with people and like it's chill, sit there and listen to your friends play some weird experimental sounds, noise they call it. And it's cool, and here like visual artists, it's different. Community are like our open studios, our art show, and it's not so much performative, and it's just like people intellectualize. It's very visual, it's very reflective and meditative. So it's different. Being a visual artist, relying on a community.
It's a different form of communication and language.
Yeah.
And
a different form of community because of it.
Yeah, but this is how you define community.
In terms of my art, I have dance to the community. I was very close to one in Houston. Now I'm getting these. Austin's a very cool city, and there's a lot of people, so it's harder. So I think that's part of it. If you have like a close knit community, or a big community of people that enjoy, exact dance, yoga, and like a generic yoga studio, and then it's not so close knit. It's different.
Right.
I think community is important. I miss that.
Yeah, I'm always challenged in my journey to understand what people are talking about and how they define community. And call it my own brand of autism, or maybe my own stubborn expectation surrounding what that word means. Because I personally hold such a reverence for the idea of community. And I feel like even with what you're saying, and I like I'm not trying to like diminish it, but like I feel partially in the way that you're defining it, in my eyes, that it feels very compartmentalized, of like that there's these different separate aspects that aren't really overlapping to any effect, and there isn't any vision that things are really like a shared bond of where we're wanting to go together, and like how all of our efforts are coming together to make something meaningful, versus like what I think I love spaces like this, and like even part of this project is I want to understand what's going on within these like these artist collectives, but it still feels like a strange relationship with like a landlord. You know what I mean? And that like that it doesn't matter what that person, that it doesn't, there's no relevancy with the decisions that landlord is making, for as long as you're paying your bills and that you're maintaining your relevancy in their eyes, and otherwise everything's good and there's no rules, you can do whatever you want, but just pay the boss.
Actually,
you know what I mean?
That's what this place is, what you're just talking about, the landlord. It's not actually an artist collective. Right. That is a closer knit community, and that's not what we have here. We have what you're saying about the landlord, who, as long as we pay rent, they're cool,
But that seems in my journey, and like that's something that I've had to reconcile, is like in how much I've been disillusioned to like what's going on in the art world versus like what I think is going on in the art world, is that like the concept of community has become diluted so far, and then we could go into so many different things about like even psyops, really, of like controlling narratives and making sure, and just like always observing what's going on, because like this is again like in theory like an artist an artist community or collective is really where there's any possibility for any change to really emerge. You know what I mean? So like how to make sure that like it's being selective of who's even coming into that container, and then maintaining a reliance still upon like these capitalistic ideals.
Well, I think a lot of that would pertain to like the selective process of actually like getting into like art fairs or an art gallery or art shows, like curated art shows. That's where like you get a lot of the selection. And as for the community, I think you're right about the artist collective thing. And I don't know, there are some in town, like I'm pretty new here, but I've heard of some. There are a few art spaces that are more community minded. I well, I'm gonna tell you on camera that like there are places that if you want, I can point you up that direction, and they could probably like be good for interviews too.
I've even put on a show at one spot on the north side there. I forget the name of it right now. It was a couple of years ago, but like, even like again like why I haven't really offered myself to those projects and those ideas is because like it just still feels like something's missing, and that the conversation that I'm seeking isn't really available, or like it's being censored from being accessed. Because again, like, and it goes into a weird like mommy may I, daddy may I, with like and like non-governmental organizations and becoming funded by like a trickle down. Again, like it's this bizarre reality of like people want to talk so much shit against socialism and even communism, but like in a lot of these functioning spaces within like cities and communities across the United States, that it's like totally dependent upon like socialistic ideals. You know what I mean? And like for as long as you're performing according to like the cultural standard and the societal standard of what the narrative is, then you can be included. And like we're all inclusive for as long as like you're dotting these I's and crossing these T's. Otherwise, like you're an outcast and that you're not relevant. And that like it's a war of attrition, so that these, assuming that like this type of voice, for example, will like become exhausted, will then become desperate, will then need to change its ways to become
relevant.
Yeah, to conform to an identity, So that's again like that's my thought with that. And
yeah, because like a lot of those artist spaces, especially like the younger ones, are very liberal, and I think that's what you mean by socialist. And we are like there is a big sense of like liberalism and socialism. So like some of the places usually were counterculture. I mean, of course, not all of them, but like yeah, we're just like free thinkers. That's what it is to be an artist. And yeah, you can find places and groups like that.
Maybe
this is very independent this year. Everyone just kind of like does their own thing.
Do you hold a future vision for your art?
Well, it depends if I have a future. If I get like killed or shot in the face because of who I am, there's no future. So I like to just like live my life. Right now, I'm going to France. I'm gonna go do my artist residency.
When's that?
This year, this spring.
Nice.
Yeah.
So when do you leave?
In the spring.
Any specific date yet?
I'm not sure yet.
How long are you going to be there for?
So I'm gonna like, as Americans, we can backpack around, or we can stay abroad for 3 months and without like an extended visa. So I'm probably gonna do that.
Is it all lined up in a spot?
Well, my residency is, yeah.
How long is that residency?
It's a few weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
You excited about it?
Yeah. I mean, I hope I like make it there, because honestly, like haters are gonna hate, and they're pretty violent about it. I never know how I'm gonna wake up in the morning, and this country is just all kinds of.
Are you getting a lot of flack thrown your way? You getting a lot of problems?
I don't know what to tell you about that.
What do you mean?
Problems? Do you mean? I just
are there haters coming to you?
People need to respect like wellness. It's like well, it's the same thing we've been talking about. Like they just don't want happy, healthy, smart people.
But are people like actively attacking you?
Probably, yeah.
But
Wouldn't you say so? Or you don't want to talk about it? Well, I think that's it.
why?
Uh, you don't want to admit to anything?
With what?
Exactly.
Do you feel like I'm attacking you?
No,
Is that how it feels?
no.
See, this is the issue with transparency.
Exactly. It's the invisible, what you can feel, what you can smell, what the stun guns, the radiation. There's all kinds of weapons these days. You never know if it's like happening, if it's psyops, if it's like, you know,
Yeah, I know.
you can
That's
smell
where
the part, the gaslighting.
you think that that's what's present right now.
I think it comes and goes. Yeah.
That's a shame.
I know.
So what
Not so
what do you
sure.
feel like needs to be addressed?
Distrust, more morality, transparency, honesty, everything.
But in terms of our conversation, you
Oh, I
believe
thought our conversation was fine. I think this is happening in the subliminal world, in the other dimension, what you can feel, the magical, you have weapons that are like super top gun. People like walk around with little cell phones, like pushing app buttons,
yeah,
and
but you're
they
getting me
like
tripped up.
stun gun you.
You're getting me
They'll
tripped
like
up.
make you itchy. They'll like put bugs in you. I mean, there's like Stranger Things experiments. It's not just a TV show. So if you're gonna lie about it, then that's it. This is a good
No, I
conversation.
wanna understand.
I want to hear the truth. What you got? What you doing? What's this about?
What's this interview about?
No.
What's what
What's
about?
this question?
Do you hold a future vision in relation to your art? Yeah, like where, like what?
Yeah.
Yeah, like what's your, especially in line with like the concept of community. Like because I could go on and on about even like
Yeah, we have.
what I'm interested in regarding community and like what I feel like is a reachable like aim, regarding like being able to grow our own food and being able to like raise our own animals and being able to like live together to make things together that like separates us from like this toxic machination of society that like
Each other.
yeah, and like to be more in connection with nature in genuine ways versus in these like hyper compartmentalized, isolated spaces where like it makes it hard to understand what other things that are going on, not only in the nearby area but also like abroad.
Yeah, because it is everywhere. It's not just about.
Yeah, definitely. And like
It's a new world order. The future's coming. The future is nigh, and it's not going to be so nice. I mean, honestly, people aren't nice. They say they're fighting for things, like the insurgents that are fighting the insurgents, and they want what's theirs. But then, like, they're just a mess, and they're gonna like make it all bad for everybody. They're gonna like switch out like your cotton pants for like half cotton, half cardboard. Like it's already happening. It's shitty quality, shitty products, shitty America, shitty consumerism, shitty politics, shitty fucking policing, shitty governing. And then, like, it's going to spread to everywhere, and it's going to be one world, one global consciousness, one new world order with the surveillance and the panoptica and, the Orwellian dystopian nightmare. That's going to happen in the daytime, too, because otherwise you're all just going to sleep forever in the Matrix and in the Minority Report getting, like, screwworm fly poison and bursting out the birds, and that's all they're going to care about is populating the space station and Mars with birds that they, like, bring there with our dead corpses, or what the fuck is the Stranger Things experiment? Psyops out. I'm done. Thank
wow,
you. This
that was a
I'm really
fun
that.
that was a fun landing.
Thank you.
That was wild.
Yeah. Some true conjunction.
Paula, where can people find you if they want to find you on the internet?
On Instagram at Paula like life without the E.
And I'll have all your handles and stuff. I have to figure out how that's gonna go, but that was a wild ending. And of course, there's a lot more juice to squeeze from the fruit, but I feel like we've filled the cup to its limit.
Overflowing. Good job.
You're great people.
Oh, you're a strong man, man. Thank you.
All right, hey everybody, thanks for joining. That was a great first interview. I didn't know what to expect, but that exceeded my expectations. So,
I did some good thinking and some good talking.
and hopefully the conversation continues.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
trust is a necessary factor.
Yeah, trust and be good to each other. No secret, like, anything.
But that's where the agreement, like, I trust you for as long as you can trust me.
Right.
And if you have any questions about anything, you have to trust also that I'm answering you honestly. Because it can't move forward otherwise.
Yeah, it has to match, thoughts and actions, remember? You said it.
Yeah, but what action? You know what I mean? But if you're...
Exactly. And the transparency,
yes.
which I think needs to be honesty. Because transparency, you get into the whole psyop, invisibility, and you're downloading yourself, and your virtual reality, okay.
So
your game playing, and
more of the semantics surrounding language. Yes, that's very interesting. That's a very good point.
Yeah. And also then you get into the whole trans movement, and that's a whole other LGBTQ set of thoughts.
Paula,
anyway,
you're great.
Thank you. You are too, really, honestly.
Yeah.